Okay, Hammond, we've got a busy day ahead of us. Let's make sure we have all your things. Leash, bowl, harness, treats. I think that's everything, but I feel like I'm forgetting something. I forgot to feed my Nintendogs! Every day for the last 15 consecutive years! Ah, Nintendogs. The game that it felt like literally everybody had. Like, open a friend's DS case and bam, there was some sort of Nintendogs game hanging out in there. Honestly, in my circle of friends growing up, it felt like this game was sold at a 1-to-1 ratio with Nintendo DS consoles. Everybody had it, and for good reason. Nintendogs was a ton of fun. I remember getting my copy, the Dash Hound and Friends version, from GameStop on the day that my brother and I bought our Nintendo DS Lites, circa 2006 or so. We picked out the obvious Pokémon and Sonic the Hedgehog titles that existed for the console at that time, but we also decided to take a chance on a new game that we didn't really know much about.
The concept of a pet simulator was actually nothing new to Nintendo by this point in time. Previously, the minds at Nintendo had been working on a similar concept for the Nintendo 64 DD since the late 1990s. The project was bizarrely titled Cabbage and was considered to be somewhat innovative as it utilized the 64 DD's internal clock to keep a real-time system of progression for your cabbage creature. The game also planned to use the N64 transfer pack as a way to further extend the game's universe. Honestly, it sounds like a prototype of what would eventually become Sonic the Hedgehog's Chow Garden or even Seaman. Cabbage was not exactly a small footnote either. It was a culmination of effort from some absolute all-stars within the gaming world. Shigesato Itoi, Tsunekazu Ishihara, and Shigeru Miyamoto all had their names attached to the Cabbage project at one point or another. But alas, it was not meant to be, as the project would fall off the company's roadmap by the 2000s and would eventually be cancelled due to inactivity. Some of the game's details and concepts would later be rolled into Nintendo games like Animal Crossing, and of course, the main topic of today's Game & Browse video, Nintendogs.
Nintendogs is a series of real-time virtual dog simulation games that was initially released by Nintendo in the summer of 2005. The game relies heavily on the use of the touchscreen and the microphone to do things like groom, pet, and talk to your dog, thus making it the perfect piece of software to showcase on Nintendo's newest handheld console at the time, the Nintendo DS. If you've ever played with a Tamagotchi, then you probably already have an idea of how to play Nintendogs. However, with Nintendogs being a fully fleshed out Nintendo DS game, it has more depth than a 4-bit black and white LCD game with 3 buttons. And while we love our handheld memory card pets on this channel, Nintendogs offers the player a much more in-depth and immersive pet-raising experience than one would get by raising Chow or Chocobo.
In Nintendogs, players are able to adopt and raise a virtual dog, with the breed of dog being determined by which version of the game they are playing. In 2005, 3 iterations of the game were released: Dachshund and Friends, Lab and Friends, and Chihuahua and Friends, each with their own exclusive motley crew of mutts that can be adopted and raised. This concept of version exclusivity is very Pokémon-like in nature. However, unlike Pokémon games where version-exclusive Pokémon are kept exclusive throughout the game, Nintendogs allows players to unlock additional breeds for purchase at the in-game kennel as trainer points are acquired.
Speaking of trainer points, that's where we get to the goal of Nintendogs. Earn as many trainer points as possible. Trainer points show off your capabilities as a dog trainer, and they can be earned by completing in-game tasks, like teaching your dogs tricks, winning in contests like disc competitions, agility trials, or obedience trials, and finally, you can also earn points by taking care of your dog by doing things like grooming and feeding. Looking at my game from my adolescence, it looks like I was quite the virtual dog trainer. I wonder if any of those skills carry over into real life.
Hammond, roll over. Yeah, I guess not. That brings me to another one of the goals within Nintendogs, teaching your dog tricks.
Roll over.
The player can use the touchscreen to get the dog to perform specific actions. When trick actions are performed, a trick button will appear in the corner of the screen. Tapping the trick button prompts the user to say the name of the trick into the microphone. Repeating this process enough times results in the dog being able to recall and perform the newly learned trick. I will say this, teaching tricks on Nintendogs takes a lot of time and patience, almost like training a real dog. A+ for realism here, Nintendo. If your dog learns its tricks well enough, it can enter an obedience contest to win money and trainer points. While it is a unique and interactive medium to actually speak and give your dogs commands, it is pretty funny to reflect on how poor the Nintendo DS's microphone sensitivity is. Be careful to not get too close, otherwise you'll just get a clipped and blown out mess, causing your dog to tilt their head in confusion.
Like we alluded to earlier, Nintendogs is the perfect game to utilize all that the Nintendo DS has to offer. Using the microphone for tricks might only be bested by using the touchscreen in order to be able to pet, play with, and groom your dogs. As someone who actually enjoys grindy, monotonous tasks in games, I love grooming my Nintendogs. By using the brush and the shampoo, you can make your dogs sparkle like the little stars they are. It's definitely more glamorous than washing an actual dog. Additionally, the touchscreen is also used for one of the best facets of Nintendogs, going for walks. As you take your dogs for walks, which you navigate by holding down the dog's leash with your stylus, the game allows you to go around a variety of custom-drawn paths in order to visit places like the secondhand shop or the local dog park where you can play with other Nintendogs.
When drawing your dog's walking path, you want to be sure to include as many question blocks as possible on your route. These mystery events, as denoted by the question mark icon, can encompass a variety of different things. Most notably, they often can be opportunities for your Nintendog to socialize with other random NPC Nintendogs. While the dogs play, their trainer will pass the time with some idle chit-chat. Sometimes it's random game advice, other times may be generic social interactions, or even complaints. Found in the minutiae of the day-to-day life of pet ownership is, of course, poop. When you're walking around town, sometimes your pet may decide to open the waterworks and hydrate the pavement. Or in this case, they also may plop out a little brown nugget just for you. Congrats, fur parent, doggo made Boom Boom. Now it's time to do your civic duty, pick up the Cadbury cream egg, and dispose of it in this magically appearing handy-dandy paper bag. If you don't clean it up, you'll get a tongue lashing from your virtual neighbor and be docked some of your trainer points. And you don't want that to happen, do you?
Other random encounters you might find on walks come in the form of trash on the street, of course, which your Nintendog will attempt to eat. Again, A+ for realism here, Nintendo, as we can attest, puppies are indeed canine trash compactors. Pulling your dog away from the trash helps negate the sick, groggy feelings that can come as a result of a putrid picnic. The best type of chance encounter, however, that you can find while walking are random presents in the street. Presents often hold toys or accessories for your pet. Some of these items are rare, and they can only be obtained through walking your dog and by having some quick reflexes, as you have to be able to alert your dog to the present with enough time for them to react and grab it. Once you get home, you can play with these newly found toys, and you can use them to interact with your pet. From balls to discs to Mario Karts, there are many ways to play with your virtual dog. And yeah, you heard that right, Mario Karts. This is a Nintendo game after all. Depending on which version the player has, one of 3 cart toys can be obtained: Princess Peach, Bowser, and of course Mario himself. These toys are especially fun because the player can drive them around the room. While driving, from a third-person camera angle I might add, your dog will chase you around, all while a very familiar soundtrack will play in the background. The homages to the Mario Bros don't end here, however. Within the game there also exists question mark blocks, rubber mushrooms, and even Mario and Luigi's signature caps, both of which can be used to dress up your puppies.
But if we're to talk about Nintendo crossover items, allow me to point out one thing that has always been a pet peeve of mine. In the secondhand shop, you can clearly see a red Bulborb sitting on the shelf, but it exists nowhere in the game. It's no secret that I am a huge fan of the Pikmin series, so I personally do not like this Easter egg. Before the advent of wikis and walkthroughs, I was desperate to find it for my dog, only to learn that it was all a ruse. Alas, Nintendo played me like a fiddle. While perhaps not as convincing or impactful as Mew hiding under the truck or L being real after all, I was disappointed to find out that my puppy wouldn't ever be able to play with a Bulborb. Other items include music boxes and records that you could find on walkies. These range from a variety of styles including folk music and classical pieces. Some of these mysterious records would influence the conscious state of your dog and can manipulate them into certain behaviors, like sleeping, eating, or being a deranged and feral... Well, maybe not, but it causes them to run in circles and chase each other around.
There's also an item called the White Record, which allows you to record audio using the DS's aforementioned low-quality mic. In our case, growing up, we'd pick our favorite music and just record that instead. So think of hit clips, but basically confined to your Nintendo DS. I'll never forget playing Nintendogs with my friends growing up and randomly hearing the opening bars from Boston's Don't Look Back blaring out of their DS's when they looked at my trainer information. Pure nostalgia. Nintendogs also boasts some fun, customizable real estate options too. As you acquire more money, you can turn that into a new home for your pups. Some standout locations include a beach, outer space, and a literal desktop where you can enjoy micro versions of your doggos. Overall, it's a wonderful way to customize your game and liven up your digital play space.
But what if you wanted to escape the confines of your virtual life and make things more real? Well, guess what? You kind of have that option. Enter Bark Mode, a local multiplayer that is reminiscent of how the future 3DS's Street Pass would function. Players would be able to passively interact with other players in the area if they turned on wireless mode. It allows you to trade gifts, share your Bit Crush music on the White Record, and play with the other player's puppy as long as you wish. Because it is passive, you don't really interact with your friend directly. Think secret base trainers in the Generation 3 Pokémon games. But it would end up serving as a crucial way to unlock new goodies and items. Definitely a unique and awesome feature that was always worth using during the game's prime.
Now, we've already talked about Nintendogs being one of the most notable games on the Nintendo DS family of consoles. As a matter of fact, according to Nintendo's website itself, across all versions of the game, Nintendogs earned itself a silver medal as the second most purchased title on the DS console. But the Nintendogs' reign of terror doesn't end with their digital counterparts. Nintendogs also found a comfortable home in toy stores with their many different lines of branded toys and plushies. There was even a Nintendogs trading card game that was produced by Interplay. When these toys first came out in the United States in the late 2000s, both Aaron and I were already middle school or high school aged, so neither of us really had any of these toys, as we had already aged out of the target demographic. Fast forward to 2021... 2022? Ooh, I guess the script has been percolating for a little while. But fast forward, and seeing as I have absolutely no impulse control when it comes to these Game & Browse episodes, I had to see if I could find any physical merchandise of our virtual Hammond. A quick trip to eBay yielded the Nintendogs Pet & Play Pup, Pembroke Welsh Corgi edition, of course. For more information on the Nintendogs Pet & Play line of merchandise, be sure to check out the Game & Browse Nintendogs Toy Box episode where we take a closer look at this adorable toy.
While Nintendogs is a fun and adorable game that we are terribly nostalgic here for on the channel, it hasn't aged super well over the last 15 years. Unlike a real canine companion, Nintendogs does become somewhat limited in what you can do with your virtual dog. Once you've maxed out your trainer points, collected all the items in the catalog, and won all the contests, there really isn't much left to do. While I can recommend picking up a copy of Nintendogs if you can find one on the cheap, which you can, I guarantee it as a matter of fact, you probably already have one in your collection. We do recommend visiting your local animal shelter or humane society and adopting a real furry friend. Unlike the limitations we ran into with our Nintendogs, there are no limits to the fun that you can have with a real canine companion.
With that said, thanks again for joining us here today on Game & Browse. See you next time!